So this is the wire that I bought off of Amazon a while back. It's 600 feet. Comes on a spool, comes with the little, I don't know what you call those things. And it's $40, which equals out to about 6 cents a foot. A little over 6 cents. If you buy the 1,000 feet, it is just about exactly 6 cents a foot. So you can make a lot of antennas with 1,000 feet of wire. Pretty good bit. And, you know, again, everything I've run has been 20 watts so far and no more than 100 watts. So my understanding is if I were to try to push this wire with, 1,500 watts, probably ain't going to do too good. But at 100 watts and down, I'm good to go. The losses that are there are minimal. So I've been having a lot of conversations with ChatGPT on a lot of this stuff. I mean, hours and hours and hours of conversation where I've basically been looking at it and going, hey, how do I want to cut this wire? What's the best way to do it? And so on and so forth. So this is 66 feet of that wire. It rolls up pretty nicely. It comes, it doesn't tangle very hard. I've got it here, and then I've got it, there's two more sections of it right here, and somewhere I had put a spool. Oh, there it is. This is a 3D printer filament spool that came with my little printer over here, which actually worked out to be just about perfect as far as a spool to spool it up on. So you have a way to do it this way, and if I want another one of those, I could either 3D print it or justify buying one more of these printers to get another spool. So, you know, I've got options there, but this is one way to do it. What I want, instead of just the spool, maybe it's not the right way to do it, but see, it's wanting to come out of the spool. This is, you know, pretty easy to stow, and that could lay right in my little case, right on top, and there's your wire. So the way it works out is 66 feet of this wire, if you have two sections, and you've got this would be your 1-to-1 baling for a center fed dipole. I can hook one end to here of one of them and one end to here and go that way and that way. And then I've got 80 meters. I've got an 80 meter center fed dipole by doing that. Now this, I think, is actually here, just to give you an idea, there's 80 meters of wire, essentially, for my 80 meter dipole. Lightweight, doesn't weigh much at all, nice and strong, weather resistant. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is 80 meters of 10 gauge wire, which is what I've actually got run up here. So that's my 40 meter wire right now, and I think it's like 32 feet or something like that. And you can see right here, that's where the paracord is literally just taped to it. So there's been a time or two that my electrical tapes come undone, and I've had to kind of put everything back up. There's a good bit of weight in that wire. That's 40 meters, but if you were to go to 80, you're going to double that weight on that mast up there. This is handling it really well. It's been through several really hard windstorms, and it's done really pretty well. But this is much, much, much lighter. It's just, you know, easier to deal with in general. And it's got loops that are pretty solid, and all it takes is a hammer to just flatten that thing out. And I've never seen these really come apart unless you put some insane strength. But all it's doing is just holding its own weight. I did put 2 on each loop to where it's a little stronger. But if you were to replace this with an end-fed, so now I've got one length of wire, it's a little easier to set up. Well, then one 40-meter length of this is going to give me 40 meters. And then all I have to do is somehow hook one of these loops to that loop and extend the wire. And I'm thinking that all that would really take is a little, like a wing nut and a bolt and a couple of washers. And you could, you know, basically sandwich one to the other, and you've got a pretty good electrical connection and a pretty solid connection. And then you can go all the way out to 80 meters with an end-fed half-wave dipole. So I've been tinkering with it. I made 4 total. And what I think, I'm still trying to debate on, do I want spools like this? And what I thought about is some kind of a reel that you could just reel it up, you know, have like a little side handle, and then something this size essentially would fit fairly easily in my case. Just have 2 little cutouts, it would slide right in there. Or you literally just take that loose wound and drop it right into the case, and there's your antenna wire that will do everything you need for 40 and 80 meters without any issue. Now what it will be is an 80 meter dipole or a 40 meter end-fed. So what I've considered doing is just add 3 sections into my kit. So now you end up with a 40 meter end-fed and an 80 meter dipole that if you wanted to, you could put them up at the same time, because my kit has, I don't know where I put that thing. Where did I draw? Oh, there it is. My kit has end-fed and center-fed dipoles, balins put in it. Did I put it in here? I did not. So anyway, I don't have it here. But there's Shelby. Hey, Shelby. That's what I'm thinking, because this really doesn't add a ton of weight. It really doesn't take a lot of room, because it can flex. And this wire is really flexible, and it came on this spool right here. Let me turn the lights on in here. Boop. So it came on that spool, and you can see it's pretty flexible. It's pretty easy to handle, and it's stainless, so it's not going to rust. It's not going to corrode. Really easy to deal with. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And I can tie them up with these little Velcro things to keep them, you know, sort of separated out so they don't get tangled up or anything. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's going to go in my kit today. So if, at the very minimum, I'll have 3 of these wires in my kit. I've made an extra one here, and I'll probably make one more. But you're talking, you know, right at 100 feet, essentially. 66 feet plus 33 feet. You're looking at roughly 100. Oh, no, wait. I did that wrong. It's 66 plus 66 plus 66. Ooh, that sounds evil. But you're talking 6 times. That's 108, right at 200 feet. So out of a $40 spool, I could do that 3 times. Out of an $80 spool, I could, or yeah, is it 80? $80 spool, I could do it more than that. So I could build for $40 3 of these kits, which is pretty nice. Obviously not including that. That was, I think, $40 by itself, or $20 or whatever it was. But I'm trying to, now one of the things that I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's called a dually antenna. And what it is it's an end-fed, it will do both. It's got a random wire 9-to-1 balun, and then it's got I think a 49-to-1 end-fed balun. And so it'd be like this, but on a circuit board. And essentially you've got one baling on one side, one on the other, and you've got different places to hook your wire. And it gives you the option of running either a random wire or an end-fed. I would like to see one that's an end-fed and a center-fed. Because the random wire, I don't know that much about them, but everything I've seen is these end-fed and center-fed seem to be the most efficient. Random wire, you are, I think, intentionally cutting to a non-resonant frequency, and it does require a tuner, which I do have on the G90. But I don't know. I just don't really like the idea. This is also something with my, it's not in here, my FT891. I am going to put that in my truck, and I'll show you what I've come up with. I think I did a video on this last night, but this is the mostly finished product. So I've got a 40 meter dipole here, 40 meter dipole here, or not dipole, hamstick. And each one of these is one side of a dipole. And then I've got a 10 meter up here. And so I've got these, which are 3/8-24 coupling nuts. And here, it's insulated with a 3D printed insulator that keeps it from touching this. And I did verify that with a multimeter to make sure these two don't see each other and these two don't see the ground. And I've got two different antenna hookups here. One of them goes to the 40 meter dipole, one of them goes to the 10 meter. So I would be able to choose whichever one I wanted to use. That does extend out, so I'm going to try that at some point and see how this does. My understanding with this is that it is very narrow banded. So I think it's called the Q number or something like that. But essentially with one of these, when it has a electrically lengthened dipole using a coil, because obviously that's a 40 meter and you can see how short it is. It's really short. Now the whip does come out further. I just don't have it out far yet. But, you know, even if it's 20 feet, it's nowhere near a 40-foot dipole. So this, I think for now, I'm going to use this on my camper, mount it up here somewhere, and I'm going to fiddle with it and see how it does. But that's one. I'm going to build another one exactly like it. But what I do like about it is I can unscrew this and screw a different one in. So in the back of my truck seat, I can have different ones. So I can have an 80 meter or 75 meter. I can have different ones. And I wondered why the hamstick, when you buy it, it didn't say 80 meter, it said 75 meter. So these are so narrow banded that you're not going to have an 80 meter hamstick. It's going to be, you know, and I think the reason they did that is the 75 meter hamstick is in your voice range, I believe. But anyway, I could have this on my truck or one like it mounted to my truck with the FD891. And my intention is on my truck, I've got a ladder rack, sort of, that was put on there by the previous owner, where you can just lay stuff up here. But I'm actually going to do this on the other side. It's just on one side now, so I'm going to make some of these brackets, put it on the other side, and this will go all the way across. It's not going to hurt anything, and I might even extend it out this way. And then over here, I'm going to keep one of these and I'm going to set it up on a socket, essentially, where you've got a piece that will make it go across here to another one. It won't be the same thing because I've got this in the way, but essentially you would come up through somewhere, I don't know where, maybe here, if you wanted a full length ladder rack that would allow me to put something all the way across the top there. But then that over there would fit here. And I would also have it set up to where if I wanted to, I could tie this one over to that one. And what I've considered doing is setting it up to where I have whatever ties from here all the way to there could actually rotate up and be a mast for me. so I could use it as a antenna mast on the truck and add this so I could keep this setup in my truck. And on top of the hamsticks, I now have a very quick to deploy 80 meter dipole if I wanted it. So I think if I did that, and then maybe even an end-fed half wave with this, so this would be specifically 40 meter. This would be, one side would be 40 meter, both sides would be 80 meter, or both put together would be 80 meter on an end-fed dipole. So, you know, it just gives you options. And again, I'm sticking with 40 and 80 meter, mostly because everything I've seen, 40 and 80 seem to be the most reliable bands, you know, regardless of what the sun does. So 10 meter appears to be a pretty good band in just the right circumstance, when everything is just so and just right. So 10 meter will get you way out there, and then all of a sudden it's dead. You know, so whatever the sun's doing really affects it. This is a 1/2-13 coupling nut as well. I've got a bolt coming down through there with a washer here and a nut here to hold it. So that gives me a stud coming out here. And then I've got another 1/2-13 bolt here that I will attach this with. So that will attach like so. And I'm thinking on my truck, it would go, you know, one of these would point towards the front of the truck, one would point towards the rear, and then this one would just be like that. So your wind coming in is really not going to hurt it that bad, hopefully, and that would be sufficient enough of a mount. So I'd like to find a way to put this on my truck and make it extendable somehow, and I'm not sure how yet. And I thought about putting this one, so I'm going to build 2 of these, but I thought about putting it up here as well. So you could put one right here and extend it up. So that's hollow or whatever. So I could put another one up here and actually pick up if I wanted to. Or I'm not sure that I like the way this is set up now. One of the reasons I want to put this on the camper, even if I keep using this is already set up. If I mount it to the camper, it's there, it's done. I don't have to do anything with it. I can just hook in and do what I need to do, and it's already on the camper. And so there's no real setup. So if I have 2 setups of these and they work okay, so before I buy more hamsticks and play with it and do all that stuff, I'm going to see just how well this 40 meter thing works. So, you know, I'm just curious to see how it does. But if it works okay, and again, if I'm talking to people that are using that same kit and I buy something like this and I tune it and I get it just perfect for 1 frequency or 2 frequencies, where you've got a little bit of, I think it's like 10 kilohertz that you can move up and down. So that would give you like a middle frequency, a frequency here, and a frequency here, as far as enough bandwidth to have 3 different frequencies for single sideband. So you know, if this one's taken, you might be able to switch to this one, or you might be able to switch to this one. Hopefully not all 3 of them will be taken, but the people that I would be communicating with would have the identical setup. So I'd make the exact same box with the exact same mounts, with the exact same ham antennas, tune them to the same length, to the same frequency, and so those people would have this ready to go. The 10 meters can be swapped out with an 80 meter, any of the other ones. So I think the kit was like $100 and something bucks. It came with a 40 meter. I bought an additional 40 meter, and then the kit came with a 40 meter, 10 meter, 15 meter, 20 meter, and a 75 meter hamstick. So for like $100 and something bucks, you get all those different ones. You throw the other ones behind your seat, and if you connect to this one, you're going to get longer distance communication. So again, that might be something where I have to relay to some dude in Florida what this person told me that's right here in North Carolina, but they can also talk to that same dude in Florida. So then maybe we can relay through that guy, even if it's a DX type setup, which is what your vertical mounts typically do. I am thinking about where this is, setting it up on a mount that will allow me to tilt this way or tilt this way as well. So, you know, plasma cut, some kind of a deal that will allow this to tilt one way or the other for maybe more directional type things. So, I don't know. We'll see. That's something to play with for a later date. And I'm going to keep playing with some of these concepts where I've got dipoles. And I thought about doing like an inverted V version of it as well. So I'll play with that as well. But these boxes are pretty easy for me to make at work. I can put them together pretty easily. I can laser cut them, and the rest of it I did here. But pretty quick and easy thing, and it's fairly cheap. So the more of this I can figure out, the more I'll know. But if I have this on the camper and the truck, and I have a wire antenna as well, like a dipole, or an end-fed half wave, or both options, so I could do 40 and 80 meter with these 3 sets of wires. That seems to give me the absolute most flexibility for the least amount of resources put in. So one of these for 20 or 30 or 40 bucks, whatever that was, plus the end-fed deal that's 20 or 30 or 40 bucks. So there's 80 and $40 for all the wire that I need. So you could actually buy, you know, spend $20 and still have all the wire you need. So there's 100. Then the hamsticks and all that stuff. So, you know, for a couple $100, I've got a pretty reasonably reliable system, I think. So if anybody has any suggestions, again, I am all ears. If you think I'm barking up the wrong tree with this, let me know. Again, I'm going to be pushing up to 100 amps through these, which according to ChatGPT is perfectly acceptable. I will have more loss with this than I will a copper wire, but according to that, it will be so negligible you won't notice. So again, seems like a good setup to me, a good way to do this. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Y'all have a good day. Bye.